How's it going out there, YouTube? My name is Jesse, and I am the curator for the Golden Age, and this is another
Lost Heroes of the Golden Age.
Yes, this is another Lost Heroes of the Golden Age, and this time we are doing...
She's up all night till the sun. I'm up all night to get some. She's up all night for good fun. I'm up all night to get
What
lucky.
in God's name are you doing?
I'm singing Get Lucky.
Why are you singing Get Lucky?
Because it's a great song.
I know it's a great song. It's Daft Punk and Pharrell. Why are you singing it?
It's for the lucky month.
I don't need your off-key singing to help me introduce Lucky Month.
If that's the way you feel, then I'll just leave.
Oh, if only something like that were possible. That's right. We are doing another entry for Lucky Month. And I found something that's an interesting thing in the appearances of this character. We're going to be going over Lucky Coyne. He did not just have a singular comic book appearance. He was kind of shopped around through other comic books, starting off in Centaur comics, and then having a dip in MLJ comics for a single issue, and then premiering in Chesler comics for a while before some of the stories would get reprinted with IW and St. John's. It's IW and St. John's aside, they did a lot of reprints of older stuff. It's not very often that a character would be putting out new issues in so many different publications. So it was kind of weird that he would appear in so many. Now, there have been titles that have crossed comic books before with different publishers, but not to this extent. I will cover some of those, like how Blue Beetle was under two publications, but that's something I would like to get to later in the future. But this is a little different thing. So, it's kind of weird. I go over this in the video. I haven't seen crossovers like this before. And St. John's also did something kind of weird with the Lucky Coyne stories. Anyways, let's go ahead and introduce this lost hero of the Golden Age with Lucky Coyne. Lucky Coyne. Lucky Coyne first appeared in Funny Picture Stories Volume 2, Number 1 in 1937. Lucky Coyne is an interesting thing. He didn't have a whole lot of staying power when he appeared in Centaur comics. He appeared in a number of the comics, but he didn't continue in them. He would appear in a volume here and a volume there until he would actually get to Chesler comics. Now, Chesler comics, he definitely had more of a presence. He appeared in Dynamic Comics and Red Seal comics from Chesler. Now, if you've watched the Major Victory and the video of Dynamic Boy and Dynamic Man, you know that Chesler had some serious numbering issues. Along with the numbering issues, they also retooled Lucky Coyne the same way that they retooled Dynamic Man and Dynamic Boy. In the first 4 appearances, in 1, 2, 3, and 8, is actually a private eye. But when he would come back in number 10, and for all the Red Steel comics, he would actually be a reporter. Why the sudden shift in retooling, I don't know. But he did start off as a private eye and then would later become a reporter. But Lucky Coyne did appear on the pages of those comics, and that's where he did have the largest presence. Now, before, he was a policeman and a private eye, but in Chesler comics, he became a reporter. And one of his main things about being a reporter is he would flip a coin to make a decision. Now, as a reporter, he basically just solved the crimes and became the became the story. And that's all it was. He wasn't a crime-fighting superhero. He was a guy who reported stories and came across the stories by, flipping a coin. And he had a buddy of his that he always, he always teamed up with. And this little reporting girl, this little blonde called Kitty, that he was always hanging around with. Now, Chesler Comics and Centaur Comics weren't the only place that Lucky would be in. He would appear in Centaur and Chesler. He also had a run in MLJ, which was just a one feature. He also appeared in St. John's and IW, and IW just reprinted some old stories. Now, one of the things is, he got into the Canadian comics, and this is great. As part of the Canadian comics, he had a Lucky Coyne comic named after him. It was a one-shot that he does not appear in. That I had to look over this one several times to see if I missed it somewhere. Lucky Coyne #1, produced by Canadian Comics, is basically a reprint of one of the Weekender comics, which I've gone over those, but Lucky Coyne does not appear in the comic that he is named after. He's not the cover story. He's not on the cover. He's not in the featured story. He's not in it at all, which I find just the greatest thing ever. Now, I have found in the research that in the St. John's comics, which printed the Lucky Coyne stories, they reprinted a number of stories from Dynamic Comics, Strange Tales, and Crime Reporter. These were the same exact Lucky Coyne stories, but they would rename him other names. The other names that he was given was Keyston Slade, Rocky Stone, and Jinx Jordan. These are all Lucky Coyne stories, but they renamed him something else. It couldn't have been a copyright issue. I believe that Lucky Coyne is public domain. Maybe Centaur held his rights for a while, and at the time of printing these stories, he wasn't public domain, but I'm more than certain that he is now. So, let's go ahead and cover his first issue. It's a strange thing. The first story that appears, which is also reprinted in Keen Detective Funnies, I have never seen a comic book done like this before. There may have been other comic books who does what this story does. In fact, a few pages later in the same comic that he appears in, there is a 2-page story that's set up at the same format as the Lucky Coyne story, but I haven't seen this format in comic books before, so it's kind of strange. They have a panel story, but there's text under each one of the panel expanding more on the story. I can't explain why they did it that way. I mean, the panels are enough to tell what the story is, but they have to expand on it more. Some of it's helpful, some of it's just okay. Anyway, you'll see when we cover this. So let's go ahead and cover this 3-page story of the first appearance, so you can see what the idea was starting with Lucky Coyne. Lucky Coyne. A slight error. Now, there's a coin in his name, which is really weird because the coin doesn't factor anywhere into the story. Now, as you see these opening panels, there are texts under each one of the panels, which is weird because in comic books, I've never seen stories set up like this. Now, I have seen stories set up like this, but when they do that, they don't have text in the panels. So they're giving you panels, and then they're giving you these large explanations. So we start off, Sergeant Neil Lucky Coyne and Detective Mike Dunn were assigned to a difficult and dangerous task of finding Killer Sloan, escaped murderer. They trailed him to a quiet section of the city, but there the trail was lost. McDunn, gruff and impatient for action, has found his ceaseless search monotonous. Now, as we see, Mike and Coyne are, Detective Mike Dunn and Neil Coyne are walking the streets, and they happen upon a house that they recognize. Let's drop in on Doc Brown. I want to see one of his patients. Okay with me. My dogs are tired. And we get a long explanation. This is the house of Doc Brown. And I guess while they're inside, these two thugs come up and they decide that they want to kidnap Brown. Now, it is late, so when they get there, old Doc Brown appears to be wearing a robe. Now, that is the color here. It's red, and he's got a white shirt on. Now, we see the next panel. It looks like a nightcoat. But, let's see. The thugs grab him, and they rush off with him, while we find out that, in fact, Neil and Mike are in the house, but they hold off to the side so that the gunman doesn't see them. Let's see. In the next panel, we see that the doc has his medicine bag, and he is actually wearing what appears to be a suit and coat with his bag. So apparently the gunman held the gun, waited for him to get dressed and grabbed his medicine bag, and the whole time didn't see the cops. That may not be what happened. They don't say it anywhere in the text, but that's what the pictures represent. Okay, anyways, the crooks run off with the doc, and it seems that the cops let him, but it was all so they could trail the cops to go after Sloan, because obviously the two thugs have to be his men. Now, when I was first reading this, I was like, oh yeah, because he's the only criminal in the world. But rereading this, they tracked him to his town, so it makes sense that these crooks would be his henchmen. So they jump into a taxi, which happened to be running late at night, and they follow the gunman to a small farmhouse. While there, let's see, the car traveled out of the city and stopped behind an old farmhouse. Doc Brown, with a gun in the small of his back, was pushed into the house. He was led to the bedroom where he found a man with a chest wound from a bullet. Brown recognized him as Killer Sloan, wanted for robbery and murder. The two gunmen promised Brown $1,000 if he could help Sloan. Now, we find out that these crooks, they plan to pay the doc in lead, not money. You can get one. Yeah. Anyways, while they're discussing this, the two detectives are hidden outside, and it says outside behind a high brush. That is a tree. They are both sitting in a tree. Anyways, the doc, realizing that his two friends must be outside waiting for an opportunity to attack. Absolutely zero indication of that. Tricks the murderer, saying that he needs more adhesive tape. He doesn't have enough to cover the wound. So Sloan sends the gunman, you guys beat it out for some adhesive tape and pick up a new getaway car. Now, I don't know how stores operated in the 1940s, but they said it's late at night. Where are they going to get this adhesive tape at? Anyways, as the crooks emerge from the house, let's see, Lucky and Big Mike saw the two gunsmen emerge and head for their car. Swiftly, Big Mike went into action. So Big Mike grabs the thugs and slams their heads together, but The thugs had just enough wherewithal to fire off a warning shot before falling unconscious. And I assume they're unconscious because they don't have any more part in the story. Now, Sloane doesn't want to get caught, and he doesn't want the doc to escape either. So he puts the doc up against the corner, and in the next room he pulls out these two ferocious-looking dogs. It even says Sloane opens the door to an adjoining room and dragging out two vicious, half-starved dogs. So he takes off the muzzles and wants to use these dogs to watch the dog. Now, it even says in the next page, or it says right here, that the dog talks calmly to the dogs. Let's see, he claims the dogs with soft words and gestures of friendships. They respond quickly and their growls change to yelp of pleasure. Now, while the doc is winning over the dogs, Sloane starts having a shootout with the cops. Now, he says an odd phrase here. Can't hold out. I'll make the pill roller take... I'll make the pill roller take me out. He's talking about the dog. I thought he was using some slang I didn't understand. He says he's going to take the doc as a hostage. They won't shoot the hostage, and he's going to use him to get out. As he comes through the door, the dogs attack and hold down Sloane. And, I mean, he made gestures of friendship. Why would the dogs attack? Well, we get an explanation in the very last panel. You played it wrong, killer. Brown is no physician. He's a veterinarian, and he knows these dogs. You stole these dogs. Okay. I treated them 6 months ago, and they are my friends. Lucky rushed in and overpowered Killer Sloane, pinned down by the dogs. Big Mike followed with still unconscious Crooks under his arms. Oh, why can't we get stories about Big Mike? That's awesome. Sloane listened to amazement as Coyne explains that Doc Brown is a veterinarian and these dogs knew him. Sloane was handcuffed and led away for his first step towards the electric chair. And that is the first story of Lucky Coyne. 3 pages. Lots of exposition. Okay, I hope you liked this video. I hope that you've been having fun with Lucky Month. I've got one more publication to go over. I am actually flip-flopping through the 2 lucky people that will appear in the last week of Lucky Month. But since the last, Friday is the last day of the month, and Saturday is not only April Fool's Day, I might go ahead and just do a 5th lucky character for the month. Still not quite sure yet. Definitely a lucky character next month. Might do one more just to round it all out with all the characters. Well, not all, but characters I found with the name Lucky in it. So, until next time, I'll be seeing you.